It's a cutthroat business, you know. I would just say to myself, I just let my work, take care of my business. I did a show in Sarasota, Florida, and it cost me more to make the trip and come back than what I got paid. Me and Hulk Hogan were the only two wrestlers that were in the first 9 WrestleManias. Arriba!
Sean Mooney!
All right, folks, I don't even have to say his name. All you have to do is see who that is. That's Tito Santana. And Tito, getting a bit of a wonderful gathering here of some of the guys that we used to know back in the day. When you go to these shows now and it takes you back, what do you remember? What stands out to you?
Well, we're usually pretty busy. Right now it's a downtime, so I was able to see some of the guys. I saw Coco at the hotel. I saw Rick Martel at the lobby last night when I came in. You know, we did a lot of traveling, and we talk about the old days of how hard we were working, and you know how much traveling we were doing, and you know, unfortunately, there's usually so many guys. A lot of times, I don't even get to see some of the guys that are there that are good friends. When you have a little bit of downtime, you get up and go visit, or they come and visit you, and if you're busy, you have to cut your conversation short. But it's always good, as you know, our business is a fraternity, and it's a brotherhood, and
it's fantastic. We were talking before how much the business has changed, and you came up through those territories. You knew what it was like really to not make any money. You guys changed professional wrestling forever, but when you were experiencing that, was it really just the love of doing it? I mean, what kept you at it day after day after day back then?
Well,
'cause it was tough.
You're right. I remember when I first started in 1977. I went to Tampa, Florida, and I did a show in Sarasota, Florida, and it cost me more to make the trip and come back than what I got paid.
Right.
But you knew that the experience that you got in the ring in front of the fans was very important. So at the beginning, you didn't really, and I was single.
No.
You didn't look at the paycheck, or the payoffs. You just looked at the experience, and as you know, this is a hard business to learn. And to become a good worker, you go up against the veterans back there, and you were scared, to death to do something wrong in the ring against those guys.
They make you pay for it.
Oh yeah.
Can you imagine then all you accomplished though, and as long as you were with the WWF, WWE, as you look back? Because you were the guy they could always count on. You had great success in the tag team. We got Strike Force.
Yeah.
Seeing Rick Martel.
It's been me and Hulk Hogan were the only two wrestlers that were in the first 9 WrestleManias.
Yeah.
So to be in the first 9 WrestleManias and to be the first match on WrestleMania 1,
that's right.
Now it's a big thing.
Yeah.
Back then I was upset because I don't know if you remember, me and Valentine had a big feud, and I didn't even get to work with him. And, he ended up working against JYD. But it's a cutthroat business, and I'm sure I was never in the office. I wasn't an office boy. I wasn't, people call them stooges. And I was never. I would just say to myself, I just let my work, take care of my business. And Vince told me one time, he says, Tito, there's the bottom, there's the middle, there's the top. He says, you go from the middle to the top. I bring you down to the middle, but never below the middle. Yeah. And that was true. I always made, decent money, and I was always in a decent spot. And, I would put guys over, and then guys would put me over, and, I always did what they wanted me to do, and I did it as best as I could.
And, so many great personalities going through. You talk about it. You won the very first match at WrestleMania, and you said back then, you're like, boy, but people remember that.
Yeah.
And you go places, I'm sure you're Arriba. When did that really become a catchphrase? How did you decide to do that?
Well, no, I just on Facebook somebody was knocking. Somebody else was using it. I wasn't a wrestling fan growing up. I was in South Texas. I didn't watch wrestling, so I didn't know any of the wrestlers. We were in Minnesota, and I had become friends with Dino earlier in my career in Atlanta, Georgia. And Dino was in Minneapolis. We were working for Vern Gagne in the AWA. Our first day of TV taping, Dino says, "Tito, you need to come up with a catchy phrase, at the interview." And he says, "I'll think about it." And he came back the next week and he says, "Tito, do your English interview, kick it into Spanish, and then show a little fire with your Spanish, and then holler Arriba." And I started doing it, and man,
caught on.
Everywhere I would go, and still, whenever I sign an autograph, can you put a Arriba, please? And it's still, and a phrase that caught on.
To this day, you still hear it. I know you go to the arenas. When you left wrestling, you devoted yourself to another career, and dear to my heart, I come from a line of teachers. How much did that mean to you, though, of accomplishing and helping young people?
I was a very lucky man to have my degree already. When I left the business, I already had my teaching degree. My wife is the one that, because I didn't know what I was going to do, but I also didn't know that the independents were doing so good. Right. You could make as much Friday, Saturday, and Sunday as working for Vince all week.
And paying your expenses.
Right, and they were paying our expenses.
You did, yeah.
Yeah. So my wife kept saying, get into teaching. You already have your degree. And so then I listened to her, and I took because my degree was in Texas, so I had to get certified in New Jersey. So I started, and first I got my physical education degree, and I was a gym teacher for 4 years. And I really didn't like being a gym teacher. It was hard work. It looks easy, but when you're on your feet all day, I'd come home exhausted. So there was an opportunity for me to get into the classroom and use my Spanish degree, and I did it for 22 years. So I have a great pension now.
Awesome.
Things worked out great.
Well, Tito, thank you so much. But I do have to ask you, you were inducted into the Hall of Fame, the WWE Hall of Fame. What did that mean to you?
Well, at the moment, I was a little bitter because I think they could have used me better. But I saved my money, so I never called Vince for work or anything. So I was bitter. Yeah. So Howard Finkel called me, and the only thing that was important to me is how much were they going to pay me. So when he told me how much they were going to pay me, I said, yeah, I'll go. Over the years, I left the WWF in '93. Yeah. I got inducted in 2004. So it had been 11 years, and I hadn't watched wrestling, which I still don't watch wrestling. So they flew my family from Texas home, Vince, the WWF. Yeah. They picked them up in a limousine. They picked my entire, they sent 2 big stretch limos to pick us up in my house because they were staying with me. So we went into the city, and I didn't realize how big the business had become.
Wow.
I get off, and people were there from all over the world, wanting my...
It's like a Hollywood premiere.
Yeah, I felt like I was on the Walk of Fame in Hollywood, and I realized then, man, this is a completely different business.
Well, and also, what about the way the fans? I mean, look how many years later is now, and the way they, want to talk to you and approach you and remember. They
brought us into the Saturday Night Main Event, the first one that coming back with this new company. And they introduced us, and we got a pretty good pop from, the wrestling fans are wrestling fans, right? They know they're wrestlers, that's for sure.
Well, give me one before we go. We're good.
Arriba!
Thank you, Tito. Great to see you.
Sure, man. Good to see you.